And welcome back. Now, late last month, the Chinese Association presented substantive evidence in a legal case against 12 respondents accused of hate speech, harassment and unfair discrimination. The matter concerns a series of comments that were made by individuals which were posted on Facebook pages and the Karoo Donkey Sanctuary in early 2017. The comments were made following an M-Net Carte Blanche expose on the slaughter of donkeys for their skins to be illegally exported to the Chinese medicinal market. So to tell us more about this, I'm joined in studio by Francis Lai Hong, who is the Deputy Chairperson of the Chinese Association. Thanks for your time this morning. So if you could just, by way of background, just bring us up to speed with how we got to this point with this particular case.
Good morning, Sakina. So this case is an anti-hate speech, anti-Chinese hate speech case. 12 individuals, as you've mentioned, have said some discriminatory and hateful and hurtful, harmful comments against the Chinese community, and we, as the Chinese Association, have taken them to court. But from our point of view, it's not just about a hate speech case. I think there are broader racial issues here, and this case links to that, where it affects black people, and I'm saying black in the broader sense of the word. It includes coloureds and Indian people as well, and they face discrimination on a daily basis in this country.
So let's talk about that and this case, 12 people from social media whom you've essentially taken on and taken to the courts. When you talk about harassment, intimidation, hate speech, what sort of things are they being accused of?
The comments are quite violent and quite genocidal in certain cases. I mean, they say things like, we should kill their children. This is in response to the program that were aired on Facebook pages of Carte Blanche and Donkey Sanctuary. So some of the comments were things like, go back to China, or, the Chinese are vile and barbaric. So those are, if you're a section of the community and those kind of comments are levied at you, doesn't make you really feel, it's quite demeaning and it's quite hurtful to hear these kind of comments when you essentially have been here for 300 years and been part of this rainbow nation.
What is the size of the Chinese community in South Africa today?
The total, there are no official figures, but we estimate the Chinese population here to be in the region of 250 to 300,000 people.
And then, of course, of late we've seen, historically there have always been Chinese people in South Africa.
Yes.
But we've seen of late more and more Chinese people coming into South Africa.
Yeah. So these are the new immigrants. That the regional Chinese people that came here were from the southeastern part of China called Shinda. And these latest immigrants that are coming out are from other parts of China. So the thing is, there is no difference between them and us. There is no them and us. We're all Chinese people in South Africa. And in 20, 30 years' time, they'll be in exactly the same position as we were 30 years ago. Their children will be speaking English, be integrated into South African schools. They will be typically South African.
So we talk about the harassment and discrimination on these social media pages, and this of course pertains to that expose that focused on the donkey trade,
yes,
as it were. And what's the Chinese community sentiments around that? We do
not condone that. Any kind of illegal activity that results in the harming of animals, we really come up against that, and the TCA has made a public statement against that. In fact, I will make this commitment to any animal activist group. We will fight side by side with you to find these perpetrators and have them brought to justice. Yeah.
But we do know it's a reality. I remember a few years back, having some of these reports come through from the Northwest Province. We know in neighboring countries like Botswana, like Zimbabwe, that this is very much a reality, that donkeys are being culled, for their skins. So you say that you will work hand in hand with authorities and others who are trying to bring an end to this. But, is the community at large seeing this matter in that way?
The community at large actually has very little to do with the skinning of the donkeys. In the program that was aired on Carte Blanche, the people that were actually involved in killing the donkeys were not Chinese. The people that were eventually arrested for having these donkeys on their farm illegally, and they were South Africans that were actually arrested. They were not Chinese descent.
But who's doing the export? Who's doing the buying?
So the buying, and that's where the hate speech has focused on, is that because there's a market in China for these donkey skins, they have now targeted the Chinese.
So just going forward, where exactly is the case now, and, what do you intend to do going forward?
So this case is now probably in its last stages. Where we had to present evidence. We had to lead witnesses into court and give evidence on how the Chinese were prejudiced against, and how these hurtful comments have actually compounded that situation further. If you insult someone and make demeaning comments against them, where they've actually not been in a position where they've been predisposed towards discriminatory speech. But if you compound that by actually making these comments against any minority group, and that includes any kind of classification of black people, if you make that comment against people that have had a history of being prejudiced against or discriminated against, that's a totally different perspective completely.
Well, we'll leave it there for the time being, and no doubt Mr. Francis Lai Hong will update us on the developments in this case. And thanks to Francis Lai Hong, the Deputy Chair of the Chinese Association. And late last month, the TCA presented substantive evidence in a legal case against 12 respondents accused of hate speech, harassment and unfair discrimination. We'll take a break.